이걸 팔아요?
오른쪽에다 마이크 있는 거는 오른쪽에 끼시고, 그다음에 이거는 왼쪽에 끼시고. 그래야만 통역사 소리가 왼쪽으로 들리고, 오른쪽으로는 내가 말하는 게 멱살 들리고.
근데 이게 오늘 안 되죠.
이제 꺼졌죠.
여기 안 하고 저거 보시면 되죠. 보시면 되는데.
얘기하려면 이걸로 해요.
근데 이걸
그럼 다 연결하라고?
네, 좀 단아하게 연결했어요. 근데 두 분한테 이걸 안 된다.
이게 여러
음성 하셔야 돼요.
음소거 하셔야 됩니다. 음소거 안 하시면 피드백 드립니다.
안
음소거 아니고 이어폰을 드려야 됩니다.
이어폰 하셔야 돼요.
이어폰을 다 꽂으셔야 됩니다.
이어폰이 없죠.
이어폰 없으시면 제 거 드릴게요.
아니 그건 아니에요.
제 거 드릴까요?
마이크 있는 이어폰 있어요. 제가 좀 수배해가지고 일단 끄세요.
이거 마이크 되는 거 아닙니까 이거? 이거 마이크 되는 거 아닙니까?
마이크는 필요 없어. 마이크 되는 거 아니에요?
마이크 있잖아. 마이크 필요 없고요.
이거 된다 이거. 막상 이건
네. 없어요? 마이크 되는 게 없어요?
그냥 음소거하면 되는 거죠?
네, 가까이 있어. 이거는 옛날 것 같은데 이거 지저분한테 쓸 수 있겠습니까? 한번 테스트 해보세요. 마이크 달리긴 달려있는데.
하여튼 리시브는 한 번도 사용 안 해봤어.
옷에 무슨 쨍 분명 있어요.
영어는 쓰는 게 나을 것 같아요. 원장님 같이.
이게 쉬운 게 아니에요. 이래서 줌을 현장에서 안 들어주구나. 그 이어폰으로 해야 돼.
이거는 통역사 소리가 들리는 거. 테스트 한번 해보세요.
그러면 거기서도 된다는 얘기네.
그냥
네, 있으면 통역사 소리 들리게.
지금 종작께서 한번만
인공지능 시대와 코로나19 이후의 우주 형성과 문화는 그
임 교수님,
의미의
그거야?
전반적
임
맥락을
교수님.
명확히 할 필요가
유임
있습니다.
교수님.
우주의 영성은 보다 높은 혹은 특히 영적인 의식과 의식 수준을 보여주는 우주의식으로 이해할 수
양쪽으로
있습니다.
끼셔야 되겠네요.
되나요?
채널이 어떻게 되나요?
채널 1번이요.
지사님 통역기가 그겁니까? 아, 그걸로 들어가는 거예요?
이걸로 하라 하시던데.
잠깐만, 이게 어디로 들어갔지 그러면 이게?
1번.
이
동영기로 들어옵니다. 그 맞아요. 그렇게 하는 거 맞아요.
아, 그러면 이거 같이 써야 된다.
같이 아니 옆에 놔두면 돼요.
예, 알겠어. 그냥 말씀하시면 돼요.
인공지능 AI 시대와 코로나19 이후의 우주 형성과 문화는 그 의미의 전반적 맥락을
아, 이거는 외국인들이 들을 필요가 없겠네. 아니, 이 통역하시는 분은 외국인들이 들을 필요가 없잖아. 안 들어도 되지. 그러면 나갈 필요 없네. 예. 아, 지사님은 듣기만 하면 되네, 그죠? 외국인들 목소리가. 아, 그렇죠. 듣고 말하면 좋죠. 그러면 이거는 말씀하시는 분들한테 갖다 드리면 되겠네. 아, 오케이. 예.
마이크 왼쪽 보시. 이거는 마이크 오른쪽 왼쪽 귀에 보시고 통역사 왼쪽 귀. 마이크 오른쪽.
그러면은 우리가 우리나라 말로 얘기하면 영어로 통역해서 나가나요?
아니, 영어로 그냥 직접 하시면 돼요.
영어는 직접 말씀하셔야 됩니다. 영어는 통역만 가능합니다.
우리나라 하시면 통역사 통역이 됩니다. 우리나라 하시면 통역사 통역이 됩니다.
그냥 영어로 웬만하면 영어로 직접 해주세요.
영어를 할 줄 알아야지.
네, 주소 보내세요.
우리 안동에서 이렇게 가정 앞으로 나가는 테크노 인터내셔널 글로벌 컨퍼런스 여기 분위기구만. 안동대학교 하나.
거의 전국 수준입니다.
그러니까 완전히.
내 말은
서울서 오셨어요?
한글로 지금
네.
저는 안동에
KM.
안동에서 왔어요.
Okay, I'm seeing your name on screen, but I don't see your in video form.
총장님 한번 말씀 한번 좀
Please.
해주십니까?
Will you please show yourself? Hi, KM.
저희 그 단체 카톡방에
총장님 목소리 잘 들리는지
네, 잘
한번
들립니까?
들어보시겠어요?
잘 들리세요?
올려놓으셨습니다.
잘 들리십니까?
총장님은 그냥 제가 핀 하나 달아드릴게요. 요거 여기 대고 말씀하시면 됩니다. 이거 보고 이거 여기다 말씀하시면 됩니다. 예.
여기 들릴 것 같은데.
네.
예.
이쪽으로 말씀하시면
예,
됩니다.
예.
한번
잘
말씀-
들리십니까? 잘 들리세요? 네. 오늘 우리가 울리는데 이게 나한테 울린 거예요? 네.
그쪽에 푸셔야 됩니다. 거기 그쪽에 그 노트북에
노트북에 이거 서지사님
예.
노트북으로 지금 소리가 총장님 소리가 들어가 버려요.
이거 줄일게요. 그거
여기다 꽂으면 안 되는 거야 이어폰 쪽에다.
이거예요.
이게 이어폰입니까?
이어폰이에요. 들어갔고 이건 줄이는데 들립니까? 이게 들려요?
저 총장님은
네.
듣기만 하면 되는데.
지금 나는 들리는데 저쪽에서 말이 들리나?
여기 지금 껐습니까? 여기?
이어폰을 꽂을
껐는데 꽂았는데 껐어요 이게.
됐습니까?
이게 들리나? 밖에서 말씀해 보세요.
그럼 총장님은 그냥 이쪽으로만 말씀해 보시겠습니까?
네, 네 들리십니까? 들리세요? 안 들리세요? 안 들려요.
안 들립니까?
육성이 들립니다.
육성만 들립니다.
육수만 들립니까?
네.
좀 확인해. 마이크 테스트. 제 목소리 들립니까?
너무 큽니다.
제 목소리 잘 들리. 마이크 테스트. 밖에서 한번 테스트 해보겠습니다. 잠시만요. 그거 잠시만요. 제 이어폰. 제 목소리 잘 들리십니까? 잘 들리십니까? 들리십니까? 목사님, 예, 들리죠? 잘 들리죠? 네, 감사합니다. 총장님은 저 화면을 보시고 그냥 하셔도 될 것 같은데, 지금 이거 때문에 그렇거든요, 지금.
저기 다 나왔네.
네, 지금 모니터가 있습니다.
스탠리, 웰컴.
김 박사님 그저
Can you hear me?
오셔야 돼요.
스탠리, can you hear me? You say what? I can't hear you. No. 지금
수고하셨어요.
감사합니다. 연결됐나요?
그거는 사용 못하는 거죠.
스탠리,
이어폰을 푸시면
could you say something? Good morning. Can you hear me? Stanley? Stanley,
스탠리.
can you hear me?
바로 직접
Can you hear me? You say something.
지사님, 한국말 하시면 통역해 주시겠습니까? 일단 해보시겠어요? 그러면 이걸로 말씀하시면.
내가
영어를
들을 수가
한국어로
없어.
말할 때
외국에서
이걸로
말하는 거.
예, 그렇죠.
한국어를 영어로 말할 때 이걸로
예,
외국
그냥
사람이
이거
이걸 죽이니까 외국 사람 말을 들을 수 없다니까.
본인이 켜야 돼요. 이건 저쪽에 본인 이거 우리가 못 켜고 음성으로 해제하라고 했어요.
이걸 이렇게 얘기를
아니
하고
그게 아니고
이해됐죠?
이걸 본인이 해야 해제.
뭐 엄청 가까이 안 해도 다
자.
들려요.
네, 가까이.
이거를
저는 그냥 이렇게 여기 뭐
스탠리.
안 만져도 돼요. 이쪽에는.
예.
스탠리,
오디오
연결 안 했대. 오디오 연결하면 안 돼.
스탠리, can you hear me?
요거 오디오 꺼주시면 됩니다. 요거.
껐어요.
엄소가.
아니 내가 말을 해야 돼 지금.
네. 말은 이쪽으로 하시면 됩니다.
아니 근데 어차피 줌으로 나갈 때는 또 본인 계정이 있어요.
스탠리,
그러니까 말을 이쪽으로 하면 됩니다.
스탠리, 스탠리. Can you hear me? You can hear me. Okay. Okay, just a minute. Okay, then you say something. Echo. Yes. I can hear now. Okay, 네. Then Stanley, can you hear me? Okay. Okay. That's fine. Okay. Good.
이걸 꽂아버리면
You hear ski Gione.
안 그러면
Welcome.
피드백이 걸리면 모릅니다.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Gione.
I'm thinking of you
Welcome,
Indians
welcome.
quite a lot nowadays. Yeah.
Ah, KM. Hi. Thank you very much for your
저는 안
showing up.
들리는 거 맞아요? 지금 저는 이 사람 말하는 거 안 들리는 거 맞아요?
지사님, 저기 통역사한테 저는 안 들린다는데.
저는 안 들리는
We
거
are
맞아요?
we are still in the process of the setting equipment.
이걸로
Maybe may take some
들으려고요.
time.
몰라요. 그냥 이렇게
잠깐 통역 들어야 되죠.
We are still
잠깐만요.
struggling with the controlling the
지사님
volumes,
휴대폰 주실 수 없어요 여기.
제
echoing
휴대폰,
all kind of
제
things.
거.
본인한테 있어요. 지금 내 걸.
We are not depending on the AI.
이거 들어야 되니까.
이거는 그거 블루투스인데.
블루투스예요? 아니 이 소리를 들어야 되니까 지사님이
Okay, good.
외국인들 소리를 들어야 되니까.
여기서
Gione, we got
이걸 쓰라고
we got your
노트북 쓸까요?
message.
불어갈 수 없어. 이걸 끼워놨잖아요.
그 피드백 걸릴까봐 피드백
그건
걸려.
안 걸려요.
안 걸려?
여기서
이거 하면 돼.
빼내요.
그래 알았어요. 그러면 오디오 연결할까요? 해봐요. 이것만 꽂으면 되는 거야? 오케이 알겠어. 들어보세요. 뭐야?
우리 지금 우리 시작하기 전에 말씀 안 하실 때는 음소거를 반드시 해야 됩니다. 음소거를 다 하시고 말씀하실 때만 음소거를 열고.
들리는지 말씀 들어보세요. 들려요? 주사님? 들려요? 얘기해 보세요.
들리는 것 같아요.
안 들? 예?
들리는 것 같아요.
들려? 이 목소리 제 목소리 들려? 들려? 제 목소리 들립니까? 네, 됐어요.
근데 왜 이게 한번 시간 차를 두고 들리지? 다시
왜냐면 그 줌이 한 1초 정도 차이 나요. 한 0.5초 정도.
몇 초 차이가 나는데?
예, 더 많이 나요?
네, 많이 나는데.
많이 나요? 몇 초 차이 나요? 줌이?
한 5마디 차이 나는 것 같아요.
그래요? 제가 알기로는
저도 말하는 게 지금 차이가 나고.
그래요? 그 정도는 차이가 날 겁니다. 제가 알기로는 1초는 차이 안 나는 걸로 알고 있거든요. 뭐야? 아니 저분들 말씀하시는 저분들은 그냥 저걸로 말하면 되겠네.
답에 다 있잖아요.
네, 앞에 다 있으니까 다 알아들으면 되겠다.
내가 화면 공유할 수 있죠?
일단 한번 해보고
근데 모든 사람한테 풀면 돼요. 풀면 돼요. 집사님 저 화면 공유 모든 사람이 할 수 있도록 여러 사람이 할 수 있도록 풀어줘요.
예를 들면 자 내가 해볼게.
네. 아니 저 풀면
비활성화했다는데.
지금 저를 풀어야 돼.
총장님이 호스트 아니잖아요. 아니 지사님이 호스트잖아. 네, 지사님이 그거 운영해 주세요. 제가 지금 문제 있는 건 해결해 드릴게요. 혹시 지금 잘 안 되시는 분 어떤 게 안 됩니까?
와이파이가 잘 안 잡혀서 이거 모바일 핫스팟으로 해도 되지 않아요?
휴대폰 없습니까? 교수님 휴대폰을 좀 참고해 주십시오.
그거 어떻게 하거든요? 휴대폰으로 참가하더라고요.
네, 참가하십시오. 줌 참가하십시오. 왜냐면 이거 있으면 이어폰 있습니까?
이어폰은 없어요.
이어폰 있어야지만 안 그러면 이거 못 사용합니다. 노트북은 사용 못 합니다.
지금 화면에 공유가 됩니까? 네네.
예, 혹시
오케이.
또 안 되시는 분 손 들어주십시오. 지금 소리가 제 목소리나 이렇게 소리가 나면 안 되는데. 없습니까? 이렇게 놔두면 피드백이 걸립니다. 이렇게 그냥 이어폰 안 꽂고 하면 울리죠? 좀 울리죠? 제 목소리가 이런 식으로 되기 때문에 모든 분들이 이어폰을 사용해 주셔야지만 깨끗한 음성이 들어가지고 있습니다.
자, 됐습니까?
네.
이렇게 시작을
조금만
하겠습니다.
더 정리 좀 하겠습니다. 지금 아직 교수님 아직 접수를 안 하셔서 지금 와이파이를 와이파이가 지금 안 되는 거죠.
아까 접속했는데
지사님, 서 지사님, 저 비밀번호 뭡니까? IP 타임.
맞아요. IP 타임은
저건 해줘도 돼. 우리 다른 데
1, 2, 3, 4,
있어요.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 느낌표.
뭐요?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 느낌표.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 느낌표라고.
아니 지금 안 돼.
IP 타임 5G 있죠?
아테나,
네.
thank you very much for being
1, 2,
here.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 느낌표.
4, 5, 6, 7,
8, 9
아테나, can you hear me?
느낌표. 한번 있었는데 여기 있는데.
2, 3, 4, 5 느낌표요?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 느낌표.
여기. 제가 저쪽에 다이렉트로 물었기 때문에 저거는 써도 돼요. IP 타임. 됐어요?
네, 다 됐어요.
인터넷 속도 느리신 분 IP 타임으로 들어가시면 됩니다. IP 타임 5.
통역자가
5G, IP 타임 5G로 들어가시면 됩니다.
아니, 오른쪽 길 이거 쓰시고
네.
됐죠?
왼쪽 길 이거 쓰시고 왼쪽이 뭐 들으시면 통역자 쓰시고 양도 다 끼시면 왼쪽으로 끼시고
혹시 또 안 되시는 분? 또 안 되시는 분?
이거까지 넣는 것 같아요.
예. 예.
나는 이게 my LA
그거 말고 IP 타임.
됐습니까?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 이렇게 잠깐만요.
됐어요?
잠시만요. 잠깐만. 아니, 저건 하면 안 되는데. IP 타임으로 해야 되는데. 여기 있네.
Good. 오케이. 자, 시작하겠습니다. Welcome to the 5th
예.
GGU symposium on the spirituality as a spiritual culture in the age of artificial intelligence and COVID pandemic. I just would like to introduce
자, 먼저 제가
all
참가자를
those
소개하고
participants
싶습니다.
who
모든
are
참가자들에 대해서
in Andong as well as those who are on screen.
안동뿐만 아니라 전 세계에
Let
있는
me
참가자들에 대해 소개하겠습니다.
share the video screen. 이 화면 공유가 안 되는데 it is impossible for me to show you. Let me try once again. Okay. Okay. So you see me standing.
스탠이 보이죠?
Okay. Apart from me, we are now having Dr. Kim Yong-bok, whom you know very well. Then we have
김영복 박사님
Professor Dr.
참여하셨고,
Jang Hui-ik,
장회익
who
박사님
is physician.
참여하셨고,
Then we have Professor Dr. Lee Kwang-ho,
이광호 박사님
a professor of
참가해
philosophy. Then Professor Kim Hup-young,
기분용
theology.
참가해 주셨습니다.
Then Professor Choi Kwang-sun, eco-spirituality in theology. Then Professor Lee Gun-yong, who is a musician and composer. Then we have Dr. Jung Kyung-ho, whom you know, theology. Then we have medical doctor Im Dong-gyu. Then we have the artist Reverend Kim Eui-jin. Then we have Father K.M. George from India.
인디아에서
Could
오는
you
조지 박사님.
shake your hands so that we know who you are? Okay, thank you very much from here. Then, no, sorry. Rogate Mushana, we are still waiting for his appearance.
로가타 무샤나 곧 들어오실 것
Then Uli
같고요.
Dukro,
두크로
who is a
박사님.
professor of theology at the Heidelberg, but he's now with his family on the road, so he cannot be connected. Then we have Athena Peralta, who is not able to show herself because it is too early in Geneva.
아테나 페랄타 박사님은 지금 너무 일러서 참여하실 수가 없습니다.
Then Sue Davis from United States, who
미국의
is now in
수데이비스
bed,
박사님
in deep sleep.
지금 너무 이른 시간이라서 참여하실 수 없고요.
Then Dr. Kujipa Nalbamba, who is also now based in Bosse Institute in Geneva,
제네바에
but
계신
cannot be with us now.
박사님도 우리랑 지금 같이
Dr.
참여하실 수
William
없습니다.
Stanley,
스테니
who is
박사님
now on the
오셨고요.
screen from India. He is
인도에서
the General
오셨습니다.
Secretary of the Koikochuri Global Movement. Then we have Dr. Giode Havea from Tonga, but presently living in Australia.
오스트레일리아 사시는 지훈의 하네바 박사님
Then we have
참석하셨습니다.
all faculty members who are here. Moment. Professor Sak-wan-sik, Theology in New
서계수
Testament.
교수님,
Lee Jong-il,
이종희 교수님,
the Professor of Social Diaconia. Then I cannot show you here right away, but the Professor Lee Jin-kyung, who is a professor of music and pianist, at the same time was director of the GGU Global Local Leadership Institute. So these are the people who are now engaged in our conference today. Let me now stop sharing screen. First of all, I would like to say a heartfelt gratitude to you. It is not easy for us to be connected. We are still struggling with the getting Rogate Mushana on screen, but however, we try our best to share our different perspectives and also reflections on the theme given.
기술상의
In
문제로
order
지금 여러 가지
to,
많은 어려움을 겪고 있으나 저는
catch
최선을
up
다하겠습니다.
what has been discussed, raised, reflected together here
여기에서
in Andong
안동에서
for those who are not engaged from outside. I have asked
송출될 것입니다.
Professor Kim Yong-bok to summarize, just pointing out main points of the issues that has emerged throughout our deliberations and discussion. So probably that would be helpful for us to catch up what has been said here. At the same time, also would become a reference point for your presentation. After his presentation, we will be hearing from KM George on his paper that has been translated into Korean. We also have the paper in English as well. Maybe you can speak, let me say 10 or 50 minutes in just pointing out key points.
10분에서 15분 동안 중요한 점만
And then we will be
말씀해
having
주시기
small
바랍니다. 그런 다음에
exchange of
의견을
comments.
나누도록 하겠습니다.
Then we are expecting also Rogate Bushana to show
그런
up.
다음 로가타
If Rogate is not able to be with us,
지금 우리랑
then
함께할
we
수는
can
있지만
again come to KM if we have not touched important point that he wanted to share. Then we be directly engaged in our discussion because I have asked our participants here to read out all the papers from Uli Dukro, Rogate, and KM and others in advance. So we don't need to repeat a presentation as such. So therefore, whatever we can do, we can be engaged. So may I now invite Dr. Kim Yong-bok to share the key points,
김용국
issues
박사님께서 중요한
which have
문제들에 대해서
emerged
먼저
over the last 2 days.
우리가 지난 며칠 동안
talks.
얘기했던 것 중에서 중요한 것들만 우선
You have
얘기해
the floors.
주시겠습니다.
It is impossible to summarize what we have discussed
우리가 이 얘기했던 것을
last
지금
few days.
요약해서 말한다는 것은 좀 힘들긴
But
합니다.
I must say that this is a historic conference to discuss the spirituality vis-à-vis artificial intelligence.
그러나 AI 시대의 영성에 대해서 우리가
I will say a
나누었던
few
것은
sentences.
역사적인 일이라고 생각하고 몇 가지 제가 얘기하려고
Perhaps,
합니다.
not enough, but some key points that we
충분하지
have
않지만
discussed.
몇 가지 중요한 요지만 말하자면
We have discussed here with a deep sense of crisis, of indeed a global civilization
Sorry,
in the whole
sorry.
world.
They cannot hear you. They cannot hear you. Probably this microphone should be. Just wait. Okay.
이게 좀 열어주세요. 이게 안 열어주세요.
말씀하세요. 이걸 말씀하시면
Can you hear me now?
마이크로 이야기하시면
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me?
이거
Okay.
켜주세요. Now you can hear me. Okay, good. I was saying that we have a deep sense of feeling the signs of times, which may be called a spiritual crisis of the whole civilization.
지금 현재는 전 세계 문명에서
And,
위기에 직면해 있습니다.
There has been a beginning of the most important discussions of the relationship of the reality of AI which is coming and from the perspective of spirituality.
지금 도래하고 있는 AI와 모든 것의
Sentence by sentence.
문제를
Okay.
영성의
In the
영성과
first
관련해서
place,
공유합니다.
I have made some points
제가 몇 가지 요약을
that
하자면
AI as a technological reality which is the convergent with other technologies such as nanotechnology, synthetic biology, communication, and particularly artificial intelligence makes a major change in the global society.
지금 AI는 여러 가지 기술과 결합을 하고
I
있습니다.
have,
나노 기술이라든지 생물학 기술이라든지 의사소통,
counterposed
모든 기술과 결합하여서
between
전 세계에
the
영향을 미치고 있습니다.
emerging AI reality as a technocracy and the spirituality. spirituality emerging out of the people's movement throughout centuries. But recently, the spirituality has been rising in response, in resistance against colonial power, in resistance to the wars, global hegemonic politics, in resistance against the political regime which is very oppressive, in response to social contradictions and social conflicts and social violence. Nowadays, in response to overwhelming communication hegemony,
지금
you might call cultural
펴져
hegemony.
있는 패권주의 등에 반응하여서 여러 가지 많은 문제들이
All right, for the
일어나고 있습니다.
translation, I will slow it down. You have probably have my paper so that you can go through it.
제가 발표를 했고 제 논문에서 읽어보셨으리라고 생각합니다.
But I wanted to underline very important presentation made by Professor 장 회익.
장희 박사님에 의해서 발표된 것 중에
He has taken the issue of AI and the post-corona situation in relationship to what he calls cosmic spirituality. His perspective was from physical science.
피지컬 사이언스
He has introduced a number of new concepts.
새로운 개념에 대해서 얘기해 보자면
Probably three most important concepts.
세 가지 중요한 요지가
He has
있습니다.
regarded the whole cosmos as a global life,
그
entire whole life.
전체 우주를
And
하나로
he was
강조하셨습니다.
relating this global life
그리고 전
to
세계의 삶을
human life as a self.
인간 삶 그
The
자체
second point
서로
is that
연결되어
he
있는 것으로
distinguished between
바라보셨습니다.
scientific
두 번째
intellect
요지는
and the subject of human as the cultivator of the wisdom for life. So his presentation was describing the panorama of the cosmos as a network of
우주를
life.
하나의
In
파노라마
fact, he
네트워크로
called it
보셨고
global life.
글로벌 라이프 서로 연결돼
We
있으며
think
각자
that this is a very
떨어뜨려서는
important
생각할
beginning
수 없는 것이고 총체적으로 연결되어
participation
있는 것이고
as
이것이
his
우리가
physical scientist
생각해 봐야 되는 중요한 점이라고 생각합니다.
and in relation to spirituality.
이것이 또한
He
영성과도
seeks to
연결되어 있는 건데
correlate
우리가 영성과도
the
관련해서 생각해 봐야
relevance
할
of the
것입니다.
spirituality to his understanding of global life. And Professor Lee Kwang-ho
리강호 박사님이
tried to
설명하셨다시피
discuss this reality of AI and the pandemic, the corona situation from the point of view of East Asian philosophy of Confucianism.
AI와
He has
팬데믹스에서
discussed
컨퓨시즘,
rich
동양 철학에 대해서
resources
좀
of the
생각해 보고
Confucian
싶습니다.
philosophy,
공자의
particularly
철학에서 보면
describing various modes of term self, we
셀프,
call shim.
쉼에 대해서 얘기하고
This is
계십니다.
particularly important because
이
East
개념은
Asian civilization is beginning to respond to the global situation
왜
in a
이
fresh way.
동양의 철학의 개념이 중요하냐면 현재
Previously,
우리가 맡고
East
있는
Asian
문제의
civilization was
근원적인
regarded
답
as
또는 생각의 요지를 줄 수
pre-modern,
있습니다.
not relevant to the contemporary situation.
이 현재의 문제뿐만 아니라 우리가
his presentation
직면할 수
was
있는 문제들에 대한 성찰도 제공해주고
visiting
있습니다.
the relevance of the Confucian philosophy
공자의
to
철학에
the issues of the AI
기반으로
and the
AI에
current
대해서
civilization.
또 우리가 직면한 문제들에 대해서
Next,
생각해 볼 수 있습니다.
Professor Kim Hoo-byung
또 기부명 박사님이
was
발표하셨던 내용을
basically
보면
discussing the cosmic spirituality
우주적
in
영성에
relation
대해서
to
말씀하셨습니다.
AI.
AI와
He
관련하여서
goes further,
더 깊게 나아가서
extending East Asian philosophy. He regards
동양 철학 쪽으로
that the
나아가서
East Asian philosophy is a deepest
동양
framework of
철학은
spirituality
깊은
which goes
영성의
beyond
프레임을 제공해 줄
the
수
East-West
있습니다.
conflict.
동양과
Particularly,
서양의
he is very
갈등과
critical
동서양의 모든 것을
of what he calls
넘어서는
logos modernity.
그리고 지금 로고스
As a theologian,
모더너티에
he
대해서도 말씀하셨습니다.
criticized the
신학자로서
Western theology
서양
as a
신학에
logos
대해서 로고스
Christianity,
신학에 대해서 비판하셨습니다.
advancing his own theology as a Tao theology,
그리고 더 나아가서
which is
로고스 신학보다는
very
다오 신앙에 대해서
expansive
강조하셨습니다.
spiritual reality. This he has been really writing number of articles and books in this
그리고 이
line,
다오 신앙에
and we
대해서
feel
김
that his
박사님은 많은
contribution
책과
opens
저서를
new
제쳐서
horizon for truly
발간하셨습니다.
global theology
이 다오 철학, 다오
on the
신학은
basis
전
of a framework
세계적인
of East
철학이
Asia.
될 수 있을 것 같습니다.
Then Professor Choi Kwang-sun,
최강선 박사님께서 말씀하신
he
것을
has made a
요약하자면
fresh presentation in relation to Thomas Berry. You know
토마스 베리의
Thomas
내용과
Berry's
관련해서
understanding of
발표하셨습니다.
the universe
우주
today,
토마스 베리가 우주론에 대해서
particularly
특히
on the question of ecological crisis,
그 기독교인의 생태학적
Professor
관점에서
Choi
보셨습니다.
outlines how
최
the Christian
박사님은
theology and
outline
Christian
하셨습니다.
spirituality can
기독교 신앙과
respond
기독교
to the
영성이
current crisis
현재
of ecology
생태학적
and
위기에
in
어떻게
fact the
반영될 수
omnicidal
있는지
phenomena of the cosmos.
우주적 지금 현재 현상들에
His
대해서 어떻게
presentation
반영할
was
수
rather
있는지
fresh in the sense that his presentation was very relevant to the Korean churches
최
as well
박사님의
as
논문은
global
한국
Christian
교회뿐만 아니라 전
churches
세계
ministry
교회의 선교
for
그리고
living
교회
beings
사역에 큰
in the
도움이 될
cosmos.
걸로 예견되어집니다.
And then we have two additional
그리고
very
우리는
interesting
매우
presentation.
흥미로운 발표를
Professor Lee
접했습니다.
Kan-young
이간영
is a very
박사님
well-known musician.
매우 유명하신
in Korea.
음악가신데 한국에서
Some of you may know that his composition, because he contributed a number of compositions
많은 작곡을 하셨기
to the World
때문에
Council of
찾아보실
Churches.
수도 있을 것 같습니다.
I
월드
can
카운슬
mention few.
처치에서도
I
이
don't have time to
박사님의
sing for
작곡을
his
보실 수 있을
songs.
것 같습니다.
But
추천하고
his
싶습니다.
presentation was a very important one.
매우 흥미로운
He calls
것이었습니다.
that he began his classical study of music of modernity, he
박사님은
calls it.
음악의
But he is moving
클래시컬한
towards
옛날 공부를
traditional Asian and particularly Korean traditional music,
전통 한국
But
특히
he
전통
calls
한국 음악에
the
대해서
music
얘기하셨는데
as a discourse of life. He
음악이
calls it
삶의
form
과정,
of life.
디스코스 오브 라이프라고
And in
얘기를
this
하셨습니다.
connection, he's
그
beginning to
음악과
make a
디스코스
connection
오브
between spirituality and the
관계를
music.
보면서 또 음악과 영성 간의 관계에
This is very
대해서
much
조명하셨습니다.
common for our Christian tradition, but as a musician,
음악과 영성과의 관계가
he
크리스찬에게는 일반적인
links
것이지만 또한
music and
음악가로서의
its beauty
관점에서 또 음악과
in
영성과의
connection
관점을
to spiritual
관련성을 또
vitality.
보셨습니다.
This, I think, is a new beginning of the
이것은 제가
fresh
생각하기에
understanding
굉장히
of
신선한
spirituality in relation to
접근이었습니다.
music
크리스찬과
as a
음악
art.
그리고 영성과 예술 이 관련성에
And then we
대해서
have
새로운 시도라고
Professor
생각합니다.
Jang
그리고
Kyung-ho.
장경호 박사님에 대해
He is a social
관상-
ethicist.
사회
And he
사회
made very clear
운동가이시고
presentation on the question of ecological crisis and how current civilization as a
현대 지금
industry, as a
문명,
scientific civilization destroying
과학적 문명
the
이런
global
것들이 지금
life, the
삶을
living
어떻게
beings in the whole life.
파괴시키고 있는지 전체적인
Perhaps the
지구를 어떻게
corona
파괴시키고 있는지
pandemic
이런
is a
것들에 대해서
symptom
말씀하셨습니다.
of this situation.
그리고 코로나는 이런 우리가 파괴를 시킨 것의 징후이고 결과라고 볼 수 있습니다.
Climate crisis, but
이런
expanding
것의 결과로 지구 온난화, 지구 위협이
and
되었고
questions of peace. And
그리고
indeed, he is trying to
평화,
revitalize,
에 대한
reclaim the
질문하셨습니다.
cosmic spirituality as a new theological
그리고
approach
우주적 영성을
for
새로운 이러한 문제에
life,
대한 신학적
justice, and peace.
새로운 방법으로 제시하셨습니다.
We shall have two more Korean presentations.
그리고 우리는 두
You
분의
may have
한국인
the text,
발표자들을
but I will not
가졌었는데요.
summarize because they are not
요약하자면
presented. I must summarize the whole thing. Is that we
발표는
are
하지 못하셨지만 제가 요약하면
undertaken major step to discuss the reality of AI and its technocratic apparatus, the
AI의
whole of
지금
life,
현실
indeed the whole of cosmos,
그리고 우주에 미치는
and then
영향력
only possible way to deal with this would be
그리고 이러한
from the
문제를
solid foundation
해결할
of
수 있는
spirituality.
유일한 방법은
And
영성의
President
회복 그리고 연대
Park
서로서로의 연대인 것
Sung-hwan is
같습니다.
anticipating your contribution.
그리고 우리가 지금
this
열리고 있는
subject.
이 회의와 그리고
I
박성원
personally
교수님이
also greet
이러한
you
운동에
and thank
기여할
you
것으로
for your
생각합니다.
participation.
여러분들의 참여에 감사드립니다.
Thank you very much, 영복.
네, 감사합니다.
I believe that you have got main points.
주제에
from
대해서
this
이해하셨으리라고
very
믿습니다.
summarized, presentation on many
박사님의
presentations here.
짧은 요약을
Just
통해서
for technical
충분히
problems,
이해하셨으리라고 얘기합니다. 기술적인 문제로
We have just 2 seconds. 통역기가 잘 안 들립니까?
네, 잠시 실례하겠습니다.
안 돼요?
잘 들립니다.
괜찮습니까? 오케이, 예, fine. 오케이, I think,
제가 안 들리는데 지금 제가 안
now I would like to give you a small space where you could share your impressions on the key points that has been discussed
박사님이
here.
언급하신 주요 요지에 대해서 얘기하고 싶으신 게 더하시거나 또 논의하고 싶은 게 있으면은 잠시 쉐어링할 수 있는 타임을 가지겠습니다.
On the themes that we have reflected here, if you want.
네, 원하시면 자유롭게 발표하시면 됩니다.
Before you make presentation, any comments?
발표를 하기 전에 어떤 코멘트 뭐 다 덧붙이실 수 있으면 환영되어집니다.
Okay, Stanley.
스탠리. 현재의 위기에 대해서 많이 말씀해 주셨습니다. 대안은 뭐라고 생각합니까? 어떻게 우리가 지금 현상에 대안적인 것을 찾을 수 있을까요? 이거 도저히 안 됩니다.
안 들려요?
이게 제 말이랑 같이 들려갖고 말을 하면 안 들리고.
말하는 게 같이 들려.
아니 예, 그러니까
그러면 이거를 빼면 되죠.
제 생각에는 이것만 듣고 이것만 들을 수 있었으면 좋겠어요.
그래요. 알겠어요.
Thank you very much, Stanley. I take your comments as that we are now seeking, we have to seek the alternatives. What would be the possible and potential alternatives to build up on the basis of our value system in face of challenges from AI and COVID pandemic. Okay, any other comments from others? Okay, then probably you can still reflecting on the possible comments that you can make later. But now I would like to invite KM who are here to make his presentation. As I said earlier, maybe you can try to summarize the main points within 15 minutes. It is not easy for all those who are all the time speaking in the podium. However, you can discipline yourself in sharpening your comments. If time allows, then we can extend a little bit more later. Thank you.
저 통역하는 거는 스피커로 나오게 해주면 되겠나?
아니요, 지금
피드백 걸리니까?
지금 디스크탑 아닌가? 디스크 열어줘야 되는 거는
누구 거?
외국 거는
아니, 그건 아니지.
외국 거, 외국인들.
외국인들? 저 들리니까 통역하는 거 아니야?
외국인들이 들어야 되잖아요.
응?
유튜브에 나와야 되잖아요. 외국인이 나오야 돼. 유튜브에 그건 디스크탑이잖아요.
아니지, 그 사람들이 휴대폰 키면 들어오지.
이거는 이게 이제
아.
번역 따로 이거는
줌이 나가는 게 아니지.
제 논문은 우주의 캠퍼스와 인류의 참수성으로 이루어집니다. 그리고 제 논문은 한 예술가
이거를 그러면
줌 소리가 안 나온다. 줌 소리. 줌에 나온 소리가 안 나온다. 외국 사람 말하는 게 지금 안 나온다.
좀 나오는데.
줌 안 나오는데 이거 안 나온다.
KM, please, KM, can you just say sentence by sentence so that we can have translation? Okay, blue.
학생의 연성 사고가 있었을 때 선생님께서는 아름답다고 하셨고 그리스어에서도 아름답다고 하셨습니다. 그리고 이것이야말로 아름다움, 이것이야말로 진정한 창조라고 생각합니다. 창조라는 것은 매우 오래된 개념입니다. 일단은 아주 오래전부터 창조의 활동에 참여하고 있었습니다. 우리 모두 공짜리, 우리 모두 제작자이고 예술가이고 모든 일들이
Order will be completely smashed. There will be total disorder. The universe, according to the physical sciences, is moving to what is called complete disorder. And that disorder, in the Christian theology, we say God called everything from nothing. So the creation has a tendency to return to the nothingness, or in physical science they call it entropy, the state of having lost all energy, the state of complete disorder, that is entropy in physics. So according to the well-known second law of thermodynamics, a closed system is gradually moving to entropy, to the state of having lost all energy or the state of complete disorder. So what do we do? You see, I have a blank canvas before me, or a blank wall, and with paint and brush, I create something, and out of that creation there is some order and beauty and goodness. So this is the task of the art which we should take into theology. Now, I stop there. Then I speak about the Anthropocene. The Anthropocene is the latest geological age. Sorry, in the paper I sent, someone has typed theological. You should correct it as geological. Geological. Well, all geology can also be theology, but that should be corrected. And in the Anthropocene, why do they call it Anthropocene? Because from the beginning of human civilization, there is an impact on Earth, on the biosphere, from the human side. And we always recognize that. If you cultivate, if you set up an industry, or if you send a missile, or if you send a satellite to the outer space, it has an impact on Earth and its biosphere. Now, the Anthropocene age has come to a crisis because the human impact has created a very, very fatal environmental crisis for us because of the pollution and the destruction of the harmony of living environment. The biosphere is being destroyed. And here I would say the artist has a new responsibility. We turn to the ethics. From art and theology, we move to ethics. What is the Christian or the artist's responsibility to change this, to create a new world order, not in the American political sense, but a new world order where all human beings can experience freedom, love, and equality and so on. Well, this is sort of a paradise utopia, but we need to hold on to that utopia. If there is no utopia, nothing would work. So in the Anthropocene age, we as Christians, as artists, as human beings, we need to reorder. When I say reorder, we should go back to the idea of the cosmos. Cosmos means order. Cosmos means beauty. Cosmos means goodness. So in the reordering of our civilization, we should return to the values of beauty and goodness. Kalos and kados. If you go back to the patristic idea, of reality. Now, somebody has certainly spoken here about the enhancement technology, the augmentation techniques, the way we are shifting to the transhuman, the post-human era with the artificial intelligence and so on. But here again, we have an ethical question. How do I use my creativity? How do I use my creativity? Suppose there is a window on my wall, I can close it with a thick curtain or some metallic or wooden plaque. I can completely close it. And suppose there is no window on my wall, suppose it is a prison wall. If I am artist, I can paint a window and I can paint a very vast landscape. So anybody can look at the window and see the sun and the sea and the landscape. You see, this is a contrast. This is the problem of creativity. You can either close it, you can open it. So responsibility in the Anthropocene crisis, in the transhuman, post-human age, our responsibility is to open new windows to reality, not to close what is open there, so that we get enough air and light. You see, in India and everywhere, people are gasping for breath, the vital air. The atmosphere is 21% of oxygen. That's quite enough for us if you don't destroy the Amazon forest and other forests. But we are still gasping for breath. Now, here is the challenge, that the artist has to provide enough vital air, vital energy for the human future. So with this introduction, I would move on to the three paintings which I did rather recently. The first one is maybe the clock. Can you see that? The clock in color, yes. Well, I call this clock snail o'clock. Snail o'clock, like in the English expression, 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Now, snail has, everybody knows the snug. You see, what would you say, the slowest creature which we normally see, the slowest creature. And here is a cosmic snail, and the shell is the dial of a clock. But you look at the needles. The needles don't obey the logic of the traditional Swiss clock, or the European clock, no, or the Western clock. They go round and round and they get out of the dial. You see the one on the right with that yellow leaf at the end, that needle carries the leaf of a Bodhi tree, the banyan, the famous tree of enlightenment under which the Buddha sat. That is a typical leaf in India. Everywhere you see that. So, and it is pointing to cosmic time. It doesn't obey the time of the clock, but you see the sun and the moon and the night and the day, and it is infinite things there. So you see the clock actually, one needle is pointing to the cosmic time. That means it denies the logic of our colonial time. It refuses to accept the time understanding created by the last 500 years of European colonial rule. Well, and in the modern time, we have also the global timing, which is not created by the poor people, but by the rich and the powerful in the world. They have created the time reckoning, and we should reject that. That is why one needle is going to the cosmos. The other needle, you see, it also goes round and round, and then it forks into the symbol of infinity. In the mathematics, we have the symbol of infinity, and it becomes infinity. And look at the digits, the numbers. You can't read that. Normally, at the top, it should be a Roman 12. Roman 12, but you see on both sides of the X you have a number, so you can't read it. It is either 10 or 9, something like that. It is enigmatic. That again is a refusal to accept the reckoning of time which rules us. It is not, in Korea you have calendrical systems. In India we have so many calendrical systems. Everywhere, every people has its own calendrical system, but that's all abolished by the global understanding of the Greenwich Mean Time. What does it mean to us, to me? The green, yes, of course, it helps us now a little bit to organize our time, but you can have other systems of timing, It is not the absolute one. In weights and measures, in time, in the understanding of space, for future, now the snail is slowly moving to the future. It is, the whole scenario is cosmic, you see. You can't identify anything on Earth now. And the snail is moving on a wheel. You see, there's a wheel. And the greatest symbol of our modern civilization is the wheel. We say we have invented the wheel. But this wheel is different. This wheel was actually invented by the famous emperor Ashoka in the 3rd century before Christ. Ashoka became a Buddhist. He followed Buddha. After a bloody war, a very violent war, he laid down the weapons and he became a Buddhist. And he sent missionaries to various parts of Asia. So this is called the Dharma Chakra. The chakra of Dharma, the famous word in India, in the Buddhism and Hinduism. So it is wheel of Dharma, and it has 24 spokes. Now, you see the snail, although it is slow, it is moving on the wheel of Dharma. But now there is a slow movement in the world today. It's not very popular that we should reduce the speed. We doesn't gain much by speeding and speeding. Everywhere, even in my small state of Kerala, they are trying to build super highways. But what does it super highway mean for me? Nothing. I lose the vision of the countryside, people, the cattle, everything. I speed up. But if I take a bicycle and then travel, well, it's totally different. Well, speed maybe when you are very sick, it is good to take you to the hospital quickly, but it's not always good. So the snail is a symbol of the slow movement. Okay, I stop here and I come to the next picture, which is called the fish body. The fish body, a big fish. Okay. Did you see that? Fine. I cannot share. Well, okay. Now, okay. The fish body. No, the fish. From a distance, you see one fish. But if you come closer, you see there are hundreds and even thousands of fish. They all become one body. They come into the shape of one fish. This is not imagination. If you observe nature, there are times when the school of fish, when the shoal of fish sometimes get into the form of one huge fish. So this is coming up from the depth of the sea, coming to the source of light and air, because they also need air. They are also gasping for breath. They are all moving to the source of light and air in a corner. And then there is also the rhythm. Look above that fish. There is the rhythm of the waves. very rhythmic movement. Now, my point is that humanity is one body, one single. That is why I call it fish body. Fish body. All fishes are individuals, fine, but they all come together and make one single body. It's our real experience. I have no time to explain that, but humanity is one body, but we are all individuals. This is what St. Paul also told us. One body of Christ and many members, and they all feel together the same. Okay, then I move to the third picture, which is Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha and Prakriti, which is a very Indian concept. Purusha means person. Prakriti in Sanskrit and Pali, it means the created world, nature in a way. Nature, the person and nature. This is also quite understandable in the Asian context, because this is the male and female principle. This is also yin-yang in a way, if you take the Asian image, yin-yang. So, Purusha and Prakriti are represented in the form of an Indian Punjabi farmer and his wife. And you know the story, the recent events in India connected to the farmers. So they are not very happy, they are sad, but they support each other. They support each other. Between them, you have again that Dharma Chakra, which I showed in the other picture, the Dharma Chakra, the wheel of Dharma. But that wheel of Dharma is cluttered by thorns, like in the thorn of the crown of thorns of Christ. That wheel of Dharma cannot really rotate, because it is cluttered by entangled thorns. And there are many other things I don't go into. You can read that politically, you can read that theologically, but it is up to you now. So these three pictures, in a way, envisage a new future for us. That is the most important thing. It is a vision. It is an artist's vision of our future. But when I say future, it's not distant from, it is in the core of our being. It is inside. It is inside us. Inside humanity is a core of being, but it is also projected as a future experience. And in between that projection and the reality, we are moving. Dr. Park, when you announced at the beginning, you said some are on the road. Some participants are just on the road. I wish if all of us were on the road, on the road of theology, on the road of life, so they are all moving together to a great destiny. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Maybe in order to have a better understanding and clear understanding of what you have said and shared with us, this in spite of the distance, you and us, could you give me, could you give me just 5 minutes so that I can explain again in Korean to our audience here, so that we have one information. 제가 우리 이해를 좀 명쾌하게 하기 위해서 우리 KM 조지 비숍이 설명한 것을 제가 짧게 좀 정리를 하겠습니다. 그러면 아마 대화가 좀 쉬울 것 같아요. 통역의 문제도 있고 그래서 이 KM 조지는 영국의 인도의 아주 유명한 정교회 신학자시고 사제신데 UCC의 중앙위원회가 있는데 최고 그 신앙과 직제위원회가 있고 아주 교리를 다루는 그런 위원회가 있는데 그 의장을 오래 하셨습니다. 그리고 우리 안동 심포지엄에 세 번째인가 두 번째인가 오셨어요. 오시고 난 다음에 우리가 이 토론을 하고 있는 것을 굉장히 좋아하고 이번에는 기꺼이 배우고 보내주고 했는데 이분은 그 사제인 동시에 또 그 그림 그리시는 예술가세요. 자기는 오늘 예술가들 입장에서 얘기를 하겠다라고 얘기를 했는데 이번 얘기는 이제 그 창조가 곧 질서다.
He says
질서를
creativity is order.
가지고
Out
그
of disorder.
질서의 목적은
And the purpose of order is to be beautiful, seeking goodness and beauty.
가장 아름답게 만드는 것이 이 세상의 다양한 방향이다. 그런데 현재 인공지능이나 코로나 상황은 이걸 전부 파괴하고 있기 때문에 우리가 계속적인 책임은 하나님의 창조, 계속적인 창조에 참여하는데 예술적인 관점으로 혹은 예술적인 기질로 참여하는 것이 중요하지 않겠나. 그러면서 동시에 자기 자신도 예술가로서 그림을 제작했대요. 그 그림을 설명을 이제 하는데 제일 처음에 한 것이 달팽이 시계. 달팽이 시계 보시면은 한 바늘은 파괴적이고 다른 바늘은 그렇게 가르치는데 그 두 바늘이 교차하는 게 무한이라고 무한. 안에 무한. 근데 시계는 이제 시간이 다 따로 있어야 되는데 여기 보면 12시를 못 익히고 무슨 시간인지 확인하지 못하고 나머지 시간들 1시, 2시 다 클리어하지 않는 상황인데 이게 지금 혼돈의 시간, 혼돈의 상황인데 우리 예술적인 계속적인 창조에 참여하는 우리들이 이런 이 무한 혼돈의 상황에서 다시 그것을 아름답게 질서화해 나가는 그런 어떤 책임들이 우리에게 있지 않냐라고 하는 것을 그림으로 표현을 해야 되는 거고 그리고 이것이 밑에 달팽이가 있는 것은 이제 천천히 움직이는 그러니까 지금 현재 AI나 현대 문명 특별히 인류세가 추구하고 있는 것이 전체가 이 속도의 문제이기 때문에 오히려 거기에 대한 대안 문제는 결국은 속도를 우리가 슬로우 다운하는 것 이런 것을 또 우리에게 있지 않느냐 한 얘기고 두 번째 부분은 그림은 이제 물고기가 작은 물고기가 큰 물고기를 만드는 그런데 우리 모든 인류는 그 안에 물고기가 굉장히 당황한 모습으로 있지만은 결국은 우리가 지향해야 할 것은 거대한 하나의 인류 공동체로서 긍정적으로 생명적으로 나아가야 할 그런 필요가 있다. 이런 얘기를 하는데 거기에 이제 우리 장회희 교수님 개념하고도 연결될지 모르지만은 우리는 낫 물고기지만은 사실은 다 모여서 그 온 물고기를 이루는 것이 중요한 거다. 그래서 나 생명체로서 있지만은 온 생명체로서 우주를 만들어 나가는 그런 사명도 갖고 있다. 마지막에 얘기는 이제 그 프루시아라고 하는 게 남성의 의미가 있고 또 프라크리티라고 여성의 의미가 있고 남성의 의미는 인간이라고 하는 의미가 있고 이거는 자연 의미가 있는데 자연과 인간이 다 지금 굉장히 어려운 상황 속에 있지만은 이 자연과 인간이 함께 생명적인 계속적인 생명 창출을 해나가면서 우리가 미래를 희망적으로 끌고 가야 되지 않느냐 이런 예술의 영성 예술의 영성 이런 것들이 현재 타격하고 있는 문제를 좀 해소나갈 수 있는 그런 방식이 아닌가 그런 메시지를 던진 것 같습니다. I have summarized what the KM said in Korea, so we have some kind of the same information. Then I can invite also our friends here who could also respond to your presentation, beautiful presentation on the basis of the paintings you have made, symbolizing the current state of chaotic situation being caused by the AI and COVID pandemic situation. At the same time, what would be
지금 우리가 직면하고 있는 무질서의 크로닉 상태에 대해서 얘기해 주실 것이고 우리가 직면하고 있는 우리의 사명에 대해서도 얘기하실 것이고 이 사명을 재정립에 대해서도 생각하게 해주실 것이라고 생각합니다.
So that we can remake the cosmos livable.
우리는 이 우주를 다시 질서가 있게 재정립할 의무가 있고 사명이 있습니다.
Or raise questions. Let me give you the floor to Professor Kim Hee-byung.
김우병 박사님.
Thank you, KM. Thank you for your book you sent me, and I appreciate that. That kind of stimulating paper, but for the discussion, I may go into very critical. From the perspective of theology of Tao, actually, I say Theo Tao.
다오의 입장, 다오
As you know,
신학자
in
입장에서는
painting
약간
or
비판적으로
in
싶습니다.
drawing, there is a big difference between East Asia and Greece and Western world, maybe including
서양 그리스 사상
India,
사이에서의
because you are
점을 이
Western
그림에서
class.
드러내고 있습니다.
In Greek drawing,
그리스
they
그림에서
focus on the substance.
그리스는 물질에
The
집중하고 있습니다.
subject you are drawing.
그리스
But
미술
in
같은
East
경우에는
Asian
여러분들도
drawing,
그리고
we
있는
let
물질에 초점을 두고
focus on the background.
근데 동양 같은 경우는
Background is
그림을
more
그리고
important
있는 배경이
sometimes
더
than
중요한 배경에
actually the
집중하고
substance
있습니다.
you are drawing on. From that perspective,
이러한
you say the creation and saying focus on creativity and order, but you now know in the time of Anthropocene, when you say creativity, now that is destruction. When you say order, now it is disorder.
질서 또는 창이라는
By
것이
theory challenge, Christian theology pay on. That kind of essentialism and substantialism is paying on so far.
서양적 리듬이
They
다
think
똑같이
you are kind of argument.
KMJC의 그
Now
논쟁이
this
된다면
is we have to
이것은
appreciate
다 파괴적인
disorder,
지금 우리가 살고 있는 시대에
chaos rather than cosmos. We Christians say cosmos is good, but actually the result is worse.
우리
So
크리스천들은
you
우주를
have to
굉장히
appreciate
중요하다고
chaos.
생각하고
In Genesis 1, chaos is important.
그리고
Chaos
크리스천
is actually the basis for
케이오스
cosmos.
혼란의 상태는 매우
And
중요한
at the
것이고
same
혼란의
time, you
상태에서
have to
질서가
appreciate
나왔습니다. 동시에 우리는
nothingness.
아무것도 없는 것이
Creatio ex nihilo is our very important axiom, but we have been losing. We have losing nothingness. So why don't go back to your own tradition, spirituality of via negativa rather than positiva? What I hear from your talk, I see a lot of positivism, which may betray a very important Orthodox tradition of via negativa spirituality.
영성에 대해서 한번 생각해보고 싶습니다.
Maybe we can collect more response or comments. So until we have another comment, maybe KM, you can respond, or you can give some more explanation. KM, can you hear me? KM? KM, can you hear me? Yeah, I'm asking you to respond to the comment made by Professor Kim Hee-byung.
못 들은 말.
You cannot hear me. Stanley, can you 안 들린다는데? Stanley, can you hear me? You cannot. Yes, you can. Okay. Stanley, could you say something? Yeah. No, cannot hear you. 왜안 들려요?
George, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
You will. Yongbok would like to comment.
Yes.
Okay. Now Yongbok can comment.
I think the Bishop, your presentation and the question by Professor Kim He-byung,
김우병
the
교수님께서
exchange is very important.
제기하신 질문은 매우
I
중요하다고
feel that
생각합니다.
it is not a question of who is right or who is wrong, but it is a kind of interaction between your experience in India and Korean experience
김우병 교수님
in
말한
East
것은
Asia.
인도의
This
경험과
interaction is a new way of
아시아의
approaching to the future. Professor Kim He-byung has deep convictions about the East Asian tradition, particularly his exploring, has a deep implication for the future of the civilization. But I'm sure that your Indian context,
인도의 배경에서는
your friends and the Indian traditions,
인도의 전통,
Indian resistance against the forces of evil, whether it's economic or political, will have implications. This will have a different character than the spirituality we have inherited from the Western Christianity. So it is in the sense that this exploration and this, what I call creative convergence,
우리는 서양 신학을
is
받아들이고
going
있기
to be a very
때문에
important way, the pathway
알아보는
to
관점이
explore.
좀 다르다고
So I
생각합니다.
appreciate your presentation in the
당신의
form of
프레젠테이션은
your paintings. Thank you very much.
우리랑 좀 다르다고 생각합니다.
Maybe Kim, now you can respond.
Thank you. I am touched by the last expression of Dr. Kim Yong-bok, the creative convergence. That's very important, because we have come together from around the globe, particularly for that creative convergence. And I also appreciated the words of Professor Hup Kim, the good friend I met in Andong last time, and whose book and Theo Dao I am still reading. And I have also learned a lot from the senior theologian and my senior friend Kim Yong-bok for many, many years in the ecumenical world. So, your comments are very well taken. I am also struggling in between many things. I also received a Western education, and the painting I do is definitely in the Western style. But I try to move away from the Renaissance style to more symbolic, sort of postmodern style. Symbolism is very important because so using symbols, we are in a way excavating our own tradition beyond the shallow surface. So at that point, I see my Korean friend or my Australian friend, they are very close to me. Now you are very far physically, but when you go deeper and deeper by excavating the human potential, the real human, we see we are very close to each other. So that is my hope. And I'm sure we will continue this discussion, and I will take your comment seriously in my further reflection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim.
지금 통역이 안 된 것 같은데. Okay, we have now the problem here translation. So maybe I can now explain a little bit about what you said in Korean again. 뭐 우리 김 박사님 이 융합적인 그런 창조적 융합이 필요하다라고 한 말씀 전적 동감하고, 그다음에 우리 개임도 이게 소구적인 어떤 프레임에서 벗어나서 좀 더 창조적인 데로 가야 되겠다라고 하는 것 동안 자기 여전히 그저 페인팅도 그렇지만은 그래도 이제 상징적으로 넘어가려고 하는 노력을 하고 있는데 아마 시간이 걸리지 않겠냐, 이런 얘기고, 어떤 경우에 어떤 의미에서는 그쪽 그 동남아 지역은 상당히 가깝게 이렇게 문화적인 공유가 일어나고 있는데, 우리 한국과 동남아 지역은 같은 아시아지만은 굉장히 거리가 있어지는 그런 상황이고, 앞으로 아마 그렇게 말은 하지 않았지만 서구 역량 때문에 점점 더 이렇게 거리가 멀어질 수도 있는데, 그 어떻게 우리가 같이 융합하고 모을 수 있는 그런 가능성이 있겠느냐 하는 그런 얘기들 코멘트를 한 것 같습니다. Any more comments? Dr. Che, you wanted to say something? Huh? Okay, please. Now, you say what your name and your background so that they understand who you are.
My name is Kwangsun Choi, Prof. KM. Thank you very much for your presentation. What I learned from your presentation, you mentioned creativity to overcome this Anthropocene disaster. My question is simple, then how do we develop this creativity which enrich life and people of the poor in the world? How can we develop this creativity?
Yes. Thank you. What I said at the beginning was that creativity has two sides. It can create something which would finally will create difficulties for human beings. There is another side of creativity where you can promote real freedom, equality, love, justice, compassion. So we will have to choose sometimes. That is why I took the image of the speedway in my country. As people like Stanley know very well, we have a lot of poor people, a lot of people who are deprived of basic needs. When you create a super highway by destroying many houses and disturbing the beautiful mountains and landscape, you will acquire speed, but finally, what does it mean, or what is it for? That is my final ethical question. What is it for, finally? It is for some rich men and some top politicians to move fast, or is it for the poor? That is a fundamental criterion. Whatever we do in the name of technology should be finally for the well-being and benefit of the poorest of the poor. Ethically, that is our Christian criterion, no doubt. But in the Greek language, the old word for art, art is techne, you know that. And it is from techne that we have developed technology, and art is out. But we have to, there is a human dimension in art, Well, I can do computer graphics, no problem. But it's different from what I do with paint and brush with my hand and mind and body, that's a different thing. So we need to have a human face for technology, and we should discriminate between what is really needed and what is not needed, for lunch, it's going to be lunch time in my place. I can eat a simple lunch, nutritious and simple lunch. I can go for a very expensive lunch in a restaurant, which I don't need. This is the question of
저희가 비싼
choosing
레스토랑에 갈
the
수도
simple,
있지만 이것이 우리가
the
필요하진 않습니다.
beneficial, the good and the beautiful. Technology should follow that path. This is my point on creativity. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. You want to make another comment?
So my understanding is that you mentioned creativity in some parts destroy even the Earth community in terms of, by the way, my question is how do we develop the creativity which contribute both humanity and the Earth community whole life? So as a Christian, I think how do you connect this creativity with the Creator God, life of God? So could you tell me a little bit about more Christian tradition in relation to develop creativity?
Yes, in the Christian theology, particularly in the East, we speak about the synergia or synergy in modern language. Synergy simply means cooperation. Is a cooperation between the free human being and the Spirit of God, the free Spirit of God and the free human being. So our creativity becomes good creativity, positive creativity, only in collaboration with the Spirit of God who created everything. So that is a fundamental thing. There are many particular points, For example, communication is important. You see, you were sitting in Andong, and I sit in a very far corner of India, But we communicate. So communication is very important. Now we send the satellites to the orbit of the Earth. Primarily, they say for communication, but secondarily and essentially, it is for spying, and for the wrong pride of our nations, I would say we only need 2 or 3 satellites in which all the countries collaborate. Now you see the problem. There's a big waste in the orbit of the Earth, and anytime some of these things can come and smash cities and human life. Recently, you heard about that a Chinese satellite was falling in the Indian Ocean somewhere, and people were scared here in this part of India whether it will fall on our head. We don't need that many satellites actually, but who tells them? Nobody can. Every nation is spending millions and millions to create their satellite. This selfishness in technology is going to destroy human life. So one example, I can give you more examples. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, Professor Lee Kwang-wo, who is a philosopher, have a question. Has a question.
질문보다도 제가 짧게 몇 말씀 드리고 싶다.
I want to say something in briefly.
저는 유학을 전공하는 사람으로서
I major in Confucianism.
모임에 3번을 참석했는데
I have participated in 3 times here.
들어가면서 이 모임에서 원하는 게 뭔지를
So I always think what this conference needs. So the purpose of this conference.
제가 지금까지 연구하는 걸 항상 고민하고 있는 문제가 서구의 과학과
My question is that Western science and Western psychology is focusing on the outside of everything, substances. Those Western science focus on the object, and psychology focuses things in abstract ways. So Western things focuses on outside. But Eastern knowledge and Eastern culture goes toward the inside.
유학에서
especially in
우리가
Confucianism,
인간의 본성에 기초한
on the basis of
취향을 하고 인간의
human
본성에
nature,
기초한 사회 질서를 정립하고
we form the order of society based on human character, and we seek to the sum of everything based on human
그래서
nature.
어떻게 보면은 현대 문제가
So this day's
외부
problem
지향적으로
is toward
서구의
externalization.
삼박자,
So I think the
과학자,
problems we have is from the
종교가
Western
지향하고
point,
있던
which focused
외부를
on
포인트로 한
external side.
그 사상과 문화가 현대 극도로
So the
발달해가지고
point of Western
아마
point
이루어진 문제점들이
came
노정되는
into
것이라고 볼 수 있지 않나 생각합니다.
everything around us. That is the problem, the
그렇게
source of
본다면
problem.
이제 동아시아가 지향하던 내부에다 포인트를 두고
And if we focus on
바로
inside
인간의 본성, 창조성으로서의 인간의
pay
본성을
attention to human
인식하고
nature,
그 힘을 기르고 해서 세상을 변화시키고
and then we can
자기의
change our
시민을
world,
내적 초월성과 합의를 시키고
and we can
해서 이 두 사상의
harmonize.
융합이 가능하다면
So if it is
아마
possible
현대 문제를
to
해결하는
coordinate
방향에 더 가까워지지
and make
않을까
one
하는
of
생각을
Western
어떻게 생각하십니까?
point of view and Eastern point of view, it might be possible to make
Okay.
good creativity that can give good effect.
You can also respond to the comments that has been made just now.
Sorry, Dr. Park, I didn't hear anything. It was told. I thought you were speaking in Korean. But,
sorry.
I didn't get any. I didn't get any. Maybe you can summarize.
Yeah, I can summarize. The comments that has been made by the Professor Lee Kwang-ho, who has studied neo-Confucian understanding of cosmos or being, who has now retired from the university but still reflecting on the subject.
Yes, yes.
When you in Western academia or the study process, either on science, religion, or philosophy, even, you can objectify something that you want to reflect. For science, you have technology, or even philosophy, you have object.
Yes, yes.
And religion, also you can trust in God, which is not in yourself, but in outside yourself. So reflecting on the objectivity is the basic epistemological framework of Western way of thinking.
Yes, yes.
In contrast to that type of dichotomical thinking, in Asia, Northeast Asia, particularly in Confucius' understanding of epistemology, we try to see from inside of myself. And now, this has been, in a sense, immune or unvoiced, in a sense, or suppressed by the dominant Western way of thought.
Right.
That may be also in the same way in art as well.
Yes.
So the struggle of Professor Lee is that how we can reclaim or regain that perspective, reflecting from inner side of ourselves.
Yes.
If there's something outside, then we can also have exchange or dialogue, so that this object and subject could be communed or communicated. So we have some kind of holistic understanding of perception of the issue as a whole, not from one side the other or the vice versa. So as a Southeast Asia or Southern Asian perspective, so how you see this dilemma, how you can overcome, or any kind of wisdom you can share as a way of the overcoming That's the dilemma.
Yes, thank you. I think this is a very crucial question which we need to face. This objectification of everything is not very old even in the West. I would say it is part of the modern scientific civilization. I mean, more specifically, they would say from the time of Descartes, difference between mind and matter, and nature and man, and so on. But before that, the Western world also had a more holistic understanding. And we come to Asia. This is very important, that we need to rewrite some of our theological textbooks and rewrite some of our spiritual orientations. When I say rewrite, metaphorically also, reshaping. The Christian gospel, when I read the Gospel of John, it says, if you believe in me, the rivers of life will flow from within you. So the real life is within us. This is not easy to understand, but many Asian philosophers and mystics, they always strongly made that point, that it is within us. Even the whole universe is within us. This is in the Indian tradition, in the book of in the Upanishads. The Upanishad is a sacred scripture, part of the Vedas. There is the image of the spider. The spider, the spider brings out the thread from within it, and if it doesn't want to create a net, it can withdraw the net inside. But once it is made, it has objectified. So we also, using our consciousness, imagination, and technology, we have created a world, and that world is the object now. And that world, the object, is sometimes against us, the dichotomy between the subject and the object. That is a problem in science. And that problem is now critical, because in artificial intelligence, the robot, which is a human creation, can now acquire human intelligence and act against humanity. So you see, the subject and object dichotomy which we created is now fatal for the subject. So like the spider, what we should do is to sometimes to withdraw the thread, so that we become one again. So what we learned as Christianity is colored very much by cultural hermeneutics and cultural interpretations. So we need to reinterpret in our particular cultural context. This is nothing new. All of us are convinced that we need to reinterpret our understanding of the divine in our own particular context. Well, there are ways, there's a way out. I only took a very humble approach from the perspective of the art, but there are various other avenues where we can, in a way, abolish this distinction or create a new balance between objectivity and holism and a holistic approach. We need to have a balance. Thank you.
Professor Lee has touched, in a sense, a fundamental challenge that we have to make in building a right relationship with Western way of thinking and our way of thinking. If I take the also challenge made by the Byung, his argument that even what Jesus said, Christ in me, I am in Christ. As long as we objectify Christ out of me, or myself from out of Christ, then still we are in subject and object relationship. For instance, even in Martin Buber's concept, I and thou, I and you, as the same subject, but still between I and thou there is an end. As long as you have end in between I and thou, there's still subject-object relationship. So therefore, how you can understand what Jesus said, Paul said, Christ in me, I am in Christ. If we are able to read, interpret, even Pauline description of unity between myself and Christ in such a mystical way, as a holistic way, Bible needs to be read, understood in Asian way. As you, Professor Lee said, inner perspective, so that we accommodate both subject and object, so to say, in one perspective. So this would be dilemma, at the same time challenge. So that I'm now posing, reformulating or remaking some more challenge, and putting fire on the theme, on what Professor Lee has posed. Maybe Byung, you have answer?
Are you talking to me? Okay.
Byung say and then you say.
Okay. My answer theologically is that we are one body, one body concept. But for a time, we are separated. Why I say? Because take a child. A child has been the same body as the mother for 9 months. Yeah? And then for some time, it is. But in our languages, when we are in danger, when we are afraid, or when we want to exclaim, we say, "Oh my mother, oh my mother, my mom." That's what we say. And the amma, amma, my mother. In many languages, when we are in a critical position, we say, because we want to return to the mother and cling to her body. When we have thunder and lightning in the monsoon time in Kerala, in September, in October, November, I, as a small child, scared. What do? I just cling to the body of my mother, because we have been one mother. And that is why I created that painting of the fish body. They are all together one body, because they are, if individually they are not protected. So this is in our very being, in our very heart, that we are one body. But race, language, status, economic differences, we are dividing. And so that is why St. Paul said, Christ has broken the boundary walls. Christ has broken the boundary walls, and we don't have enough courage to follow Christ. That way we create boundary and even literal boundaries, in Berlin, in between Mexico and America, they at least propose something. In Korea, again, in India, between India and Pakistan, we have boundaries. And these boundaries, definitely are political things nowadays, but this is against the grain of humanity. It's against the grain of humanity, I said, because originally we are one body. One body. So this is my theological answer to that. How do we regain that awareness of being one body with the rest, not only of human beings, but the rest of creation? Thank you.
Actually, I think I have the same point you just mentioned. So my problem is how to articulate and formulate one body. But my worry is so far, we have been discussing that issue on the basis of epistemology, epistemology, knowing. In other words, cosmos, chaos, non-being and being, I and you, East and West, order and disorder. That kind of dualism functioning, then you cannot get back to one body, you know. And we have a historical evidence in terms of doctrinal discourse. So maybe focus on cosmos being kind of affirmative, via positive approach, kind of a real problem. So we have to reconsider that kinds of division, dichotomy before what we call chaos of cosmos. There might be chaos, but I'm not saying some kind of full confusion. But that is a chaos before cosmos. So we have to reappreciate that theological application. Then I think we can do that from your tradition via negative spirituality and even Genesis chapter 1 and so on and so on. So of course, particularly your tradition is very strong. Why we have to take that nuance very serious? That's my point. That's my point. Okay. So
you know, the philosophical answers in India, for example, the Indian Hindu tradition of Advaita, you know, not two but one, Advaita, which is an answer to this question of fragmentation, separation. They would say we see things as different, one from the other, because of ignorance. In Sanskrit, avidya. Avidya, that is a classical Indian answer. When the avidya or ignorance is removed, when we receive the true light, when we are enlightened, we see everything is one. So they would say this sense of separation is something which is for a time and which is in a way a provisional thing. We can overcome that. The Christian tradition also, when I celebrate a wedding, I make a little sermon saying that Jesus says they are one body. What God has created, human beings should not separate. And I personally tell them, this is not simply about marriage. Marriage is a metaphor here. It is about the whole humanity or the whole world. But you human beings, you come from the same origin. You are all one. So don't cut off pieces. Don't do the fragmentation in one body. So for me, spiritually, this one bodiness, not bodiness, but bodiness. That one body, the sense of one body is possible. You know, I have a little exercise, spiritual exercise, which some of you may be practicing also. Every morning, after 6 o'clock, I go out for a walk and I have a little kitchen garden around my house and some trees and plants. What I do silently and without, just showing it off, touch the trees and plants, and I stand for a minute with the closed eyes and feel two movements. The tree in my garden, is taking water, and the roots are sending the water to the leaves, and the leaves are taking the sunlight, making chlorophyll and sending it down to everybody. So that two movements, twin movements. And I touch the tree and I stay in silence for some time. You see, I feel I'm connected. I'm connected. I become the tree, and the tree becomes me. I become the sort of, as the mythology says, the axis mundi, the world axis, the ladder in Bible, the ladder of Jacob, connecting the earth and heaven, in which the angels climb down and climb up. So with the tree, and this also cross, you see, it is in our theology that we say Jesus was hanged on a cross. No, the Bible says Jesus was hanged on a tree. You remember those biblical verses in the book of Apostles. He was hanged on a tree because this is the energy of life which connects everything. The earth, the celestial spheres, and the whole universe. And this is a spiritual practice which may be in line with Confucian, Neo-Confucian and Tao traditions. But something which I share with you. We can practice this and experience it. Thank you.
Can I do follow-up? Just one. Okay. Yeah, okay. PM, very good. But you still saying your meditation based on outside. We return to Professor Lee's question inside. My meditation method or my suggestion is, why don't you forget everything outside? Go into your deep inside of you. Even you forget yourself beyond ego, and you experience nothingness, total emptiness. Kind of meditation is my suggestion. So that kind of superkenotic, that is your term, your traditional term, superkenotic spirituality. We might have some kind of way to overcome this kind of highly analytic and separation-oriented kind of mentality or spirituality.
Yes, just a moment. Professor Hurtum, I fully appreciate, but I personally am at the lowest rung of the ladder, the first spiritual step, you can climb many steps, so that you arrive at the point where, you negate everything and you become one with everything. Thank you.
Carla Nathan from Indonesia, she would like to make a comment. So she has been waiting for a moment. Carla, now you can say what you want to say. Carla?
Carla from Indonesia. Carla, could you now you have your turn.
Okay. Thank you, Sang-won. Hi, everybody. I can see you all in my cell phone, and I'm sorry I didn't use my video because there is internet connections here, so I'm off my video. My first, just to give a comment to Bishop, thank you very much for the snail time pictures. It's when I saw it, I just kind of an answer that I've been looking in the past 2 years, when thinking a lot about speediness and slowness of life. I'm staying now in the island in Central Moluccas, which is thanks God that I came here just 3 months before the
석 달 전에
COVID.
여기에 온 것을
So it's
저는 하나님께 너무나 감사하고 있습니다.
it's a place where there is no lockdown here. And there
여기
is
지금
no case
록다운이
of the
없고요.
COVID-19 so far. So
코비드-19에서
people
지금
here, they
안전한
still do
상태입니다.
their work
여기
as
사람들은
it used to
여전히
be.
일하고 있고 옛날처럼 삶을
With
즐기고 있습니다.
what you present, what has been come in my mind that when I tell my friends in outside of the island that in Java mostly where I stay in Jakarta for 30 years, and then as a city girls you going a lot with the speed, no, like you're talking about the speed things, you know, like everything has to be fast, everything has to be organized, has to be planned. While I'm staying in the island where that you're talking about the slowness, the snail time. The snail time where is, you know, the one of the needle, it's going towards the cosmos, no? Like the relation with the cosmos, like everything is really rely, I mean, I call it rely on the mercy of the nature. My husband is a farmer. And then there was a time that I reflect, I discuss a lot with my friends who is the economist about the harvest. You know, when the market already putting a price, and then we thought we can go and get the price higher. But when we brought our harvest to the city, and there is some problem with our harvest, the price is going down, you know. So how market have been dictate, like you say, how market have been dictate the price, and the farmers have to really living somehow, like I can see, like in one side they are living in the mercy of the nature, but in the other side they have to living also in the mercy of this you know, the capitalists, no, the greediness who dictate the price. So it's a kind of it's really a struggling thing for me. The second point that I want to give a comment, when I tell my friends that I'm staying in the island in Jakarta, they are so happy. They're telling me like, you are so lucky because in the COVID things now you have a fresh air, you know, because I'm living here in the jungle where people, I mean the village people call me like I'm living in the jungle, you know. So it's only, like you say, there's only 3 animals living with me, and only 200 meters that I can meet people. But the opposite things that I found with the community, the village people here, when they know that I'm staying in the jungle, is at least people have been asking me the same questions. Like, you are not afraid, you know, with Satan or with evil when you're staying in the jungle? And have you seen anything, you know, something disturbing you, or someone, quote unquote, come to you and you know, and even with the children, because I'm teaching English now with the kids, and then we are using one of the reading house here, and the kids always say like, you know, Miss, they're always can we just go back home earlier because there is an evil there, there is a Satan there, you know. So I'm in the kind of try to, you know, like try to understand, like, my friends are so happy to know that I'm staying in the jungle, while people here, the community, the village people, they are thinking that I'm like, you know, there is an evil here, there is a ghost here, which is for me, I always telling me that, like, I tell them like, so far that I know it's only God that because this is the Christian area. And again, this is about this theological understanding again, like you have been talking right now, no? How you see, you know, these village people, they are thinking about living in the beauty, but there is something still like scare them, you know.
Carla, excuse me, you now make a question.
Yes, that's my question for Bishop, is the dilemma, you know, like people in the city thinking you are living in heaven, but the people here thinking that you are living in this devil thing sometimes, no?
Okay.
사람들이 저에게
Okay.
데빌스에 살고
Thank you.
있다고 생각하는데 그게 제
Thank you. I'll
질문입니다.
be very brief, but please call me Father George or just George, as you like. Father George. Now, this is the problem of humanity, the problem of
이게
evil.
인류의 문제라고
Fear.
생각합니다. 이불에 대한
Fear
두려움,
is not originally part
두려움은
of the
원래
human person.
인간에서부터 온 것이 아닙니다.
In the biblical myth of paradise,
성경에서 보면 천국에
Adam was
대한
not afraid of anything. Animals came to him. So he named them. So he can call them by name. The so-called wild animals, the ferocious animals. No, he was friendly with everybody. And they could see God through Adam. Adam was transparent, not metaphorically. Adam was transparent. So animals could see God, the loving God, the Creator.
제가
So nobody was
생각하기에
afraid
아담은
of anything.
투명했고 동물이 아담을 더
Now,
하나님을 볼 수도
when I
있었습니다.
go to the forest here in Kerala, at the entrance, they ask me not to put on any perfume, not to wear anything of wrong smell, which is alien to the forest. That means
제가 어디 가면 뭐 나쁜 냄새가 나지
hundreds of
않느냐
kilometers
이런
away,
것들을
the
물어보는
elephants
사람들도 있는데
can smell something which is strange.
멀리서도
So
이상한 냄새를 맡을
there is
수
a very
있습니다.
famous saint in Orthodox tradition, Saint Isaac of Nineveh. He lived in the 7th century. He was a bishop, but he renounced everything and followed the so-called negative. He became a monk, or he lived the life of a monk. He tells us that Adam had a special smell when he was in the paradise. So animals and plants and all creatures recognize that smell. That smell was a divine smell. But when he fell, when he on earth, his body smell is very problematic, the body smell, elephants, tigers, even small creatures, we can all smell our body smell. So what we do, we buy expensive perfumes from Paris and New York and Tokyo and whatever, and then you try to mask the perfume, the odor of your body. Now the Saint Isaac tells us that living a life of holiness and simplicity and trusting God and trusting other creatures, you will get back the old odor, the old smell of Adam. Then nobody will be afraid. Then you can move easily. Well, this is briefly the theological answer. I have a good friend who is a wild photographer, and he goes very close with his camera of wild elephants and tigers. He says absolutely no problem, because in his mind he has no trace of violence. He doesn't want to harm anything. He walks without shoes, without boots in the forest, not to do harm to creatures. So when you acquire that feeling, that sense, then the fear will be out. Only fear is the big problem we have. The final fear of death. We can also overcome that final fear of death. That's my simple answer to Carla. Yes.
Now we have only 4 minutes to go.
Yes.
We have
Now 4 minutes to go. I'm still waiting for appearance of Rogate, but I think he's still struggling for connectivity. I don't know who you are in naming a translator. I have no idea what you are, who you are. So let me just give the floor to any of the friends who would like to make comments. You are? Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. Stanley, we have now 3 minutes to go, but if you want to make any comments, maybe we can take your comment, the last one, and then we break. because it is not human to continue for more than 2 hours in this device.
Yes,
So
yes.
please, Stanley, what you want to say?
Friends, first on the COVID-19 pandemic.
첫 번째는
COVID-19
코비드에 대해서
pandemic
얘기를 하자면
did not break the systems. It exposed the broken systems.
이것은 지금 깨어진 시스템을 폭로하고
On
있습니다.
spirituality,
영적으로
billions of people still
수많은
do not
사람들이
know
여전히
religion,
종교를 모르고
but
있습니다.
still they are spiritual, living with
그러나
nature
영적으로
in harmony.
여전히 뭔가와 조화를 맞추고
Regarding
있습니다.
artificial intelligence,
AI에 대해서 말하자면
artificial intelligence cannot remove poverty, cannot remove injustice,
평화나
cannot remove
공의를
hate and greed.
조절할 수 없습니다. 또
We are
욕심
succumbed to
같은
live
것도 조절할 수
with
없습니다.
exploitation, dehumanization, and marginalization.
AI는 지금 디휴머니즈
AI
비인간화하고 있습니다.
as a
AI는
tool
제가
cannot
말했듯이
liberate people.
사람을 자유롭게 할 수도 없습니다.
Finally, on Christianity, the modern
기독교는
Christian theology
현대 기독교
utterly
신앙은
failed to disclose and debate
이
on the
논의를
fundamental
닫고
crisis
있습니다.
of human beings and
근본적인
nature.
논의, 인간과 자연에 대한 논의를
They shift the
잠그고
entire
있습니다.
blame of disasters to act of God,
이것은
and we continue
재난에
to
대해서
pray
좋습니다.
God will come and
하나님 올 것이고
renew the entire process.
우리를
As Bishop said,
위하였습니다. 비숍이
we are the
말했듯이
creators, we are the artists,
우리는
we should
예술가이고
change
우리는
and be a
창의자이며
good human
우리가
artist
바꿔야 합니다.
to
우리가
bring
좋은
change
인간 창의자가
together,
되어야 합니다.
whether they are
다 같이
west or east. We are one body. We live in nature.
중요한 것이 아니라 우리는 하나의 몸으로 서로
And
같이
therefore,
살고 있습니다. 그럼
my submission is
제
finally to say in
마지막으로
few words,
말하자면
we as people
우리는 한 사람입니다.
understand the rapid spread of the new coronavirus, which has exacerbated
급박하게 돌아가는
already
코로나
several
시대를 살아가고 있는
social
사람으로서
in many countries.
많은 나라에서
Society is at crucial crossroads, and we urgently need to reflect on the causes of COVID-19 pandemic
우리는 일단은
and the wider
코로나의
crisis
원인에 대해서
of
얘기해 볼
artificial
알아볼
intelligence,
필요가 있습니다.
and then decide how to steer our future.
그리고 우리는
It is
어떻게
clear
우리의 미래를
that the way we
밝게
humans
디자인할 수 있을까요?
have organized society and production, that is the capitalist system, with its built-in
저는 이게
imperative
자본주의적 생각이라고 합니다. 인간 자연 이원화하고 이런 거.
profit and growth, is the main cause for the social ecological crisis. In other words,
즉 다른 말로
COVID-19 is not a big enough phenomenon to reshape
현상이 아니라
flawed foundation
다시
of
근본적으로
current worldview
리쉐이프 새로
that has
만들어야
brought
할 기회가 될 수
our
있습니다.
civilization to its current predicament.
현대의 문명을 다시 재창조할
Our
수 있는 기회가
dominant
될 것입니다.
worldview is based on an underlying theme of separation. People are separate from each other. Humans are separate from nature. And nature itself is no more than an economic resource. The value system built on this foundation is the ultimate cause of the world's gapping inequalities, suffering, our roller coaster global financial systems, our failure to respond to climate breakdowns, and our unsustainable frenzy consumption. It provides an implicit basis for ruthless neoliberal policies, the domination of religion, and the role of transnational corporations focus solely on we as shareholders of the returns of the profits and the worldwide obsession of wealth and continue to maintain this unsustainable growth on a finite planet. So our request is to revisit our spirituality in connection to our religious thinking. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stanley.
Yeah.
I have now the Athena on screen here. If you are still there, you can, if you want, you can make comments. Athena, you hear me? Okay, she's not listening too. So Professor Lee, you want to speak? No, okay. Okay, fine. Then I would like to give the final moment to KM so that you can conclude this session by your last comment.
Yeah, thank you. I have only a word of gratitude to all of you, because whatever we speak about technology, technology has made it possible for us to meet. So, gratitude to the great inventors and to the creativity of the human being. But what I said about one body is not mathematical. It is physically truthful, and we need to rediscover through new spiritual exercise. Now we have a virtual body, and in the years to come, we are being more and more. We will be living more and more in the virtual world. The physical is being done away with. So spiritually, let us create this one bodiness. When I wrote bodiness, one person corrected it bodiness. No, I speak about bodiness. The sense of being in one body. So I'm very happy, glad to see all your faces. Dr. Park, thank you for organizing it. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, KM, for spending your time with us. We regret very much the inability of connecting the Tanzania, Arusha, and Andong here. So we are missing the Rogate. But we have a new discussion, and then you have given us a very important point that we have to continue to reflect. Thank you very much. And now, since the 2 hours is gone, I would like to close this session by saying thank you so much to all of you. And I also promise you that next time we try to see with our eyes than screen. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
저희들이 참 좋은 친구가 탄자니아 아루시아에 있는데 이 회의를 위해서 굉장히 참여하려고 그러고 또 좋은 그것도 생각을 나누고 특별히 이집트 신화 혹은 도고 신화 이런 스피리추얼리티에 대한 얘기를 해주셨는데 인터넷 때문에 우리가 함께 참여하지 못했습니다. 아쉽게 생각하고 책을 이제 페이퍼 읽으시고 그걸로 만족을 하셔야 될 것 같습니다. 제 생각에는 지금 우리 좀 쉬었다가 쉬는 동안에 제가 좀 생각을 해볼게요. 이게 어떻게 요 이후를 가면 좋을까? 왜냐면은 이게 다시 인터넷 회의를 개소하는 것은 아주 파괴적인 것 같고, 그래서 우리가 다른 쪽으로 가야 되는데 다른 쪽은 좀 해방적으로 해야 되지 않겠나 생각하고 내가 체크하고 제가 광고를 하겠습니다. 일단 쉬시고 4시 40분에 다시 만나서 우리가 뭘 할 것인가, 살 것인가, 죽을 것인가. 수고하셨습니다. 우리 신명희 주사님이신데 굉장히 어려운 통역을 해주셨습니다. 감사합니다.
처음에는 굉장히 어려웠는데 처음에는 막 소통 되게 어려웠는데 나중에 조금씩 입이 조금씩 들어가지고 이제 조금씩 이게 되려고. 처음에 노트북으로 난 딜레이 되는 줄 몰랐거든요. 딜레이가 돼야 돼.
안 들려.
휴대폰은 딜레이 안 되죠.
전혀 안 돼. 이걸로 하니까 무슨 말인지 알겠는데.
몰라서 나는 그것도 모르고 줌에서 문제인 줄 알고 휴대폰 문제, 노트북 문제인 줄 몰랐거든요. 나중에 저
그러니까
안쪽에서
진짜 이걸로 할게 그랬어요. 여기 얘는 말이 안 나왔다가
우리도 이 줌을 생중계하는 건 처음이거든요. 그래가지고 저희들도 기술적인 솔직히 저는 줌 문제인 줄 알았는데 요 노트북 문제인 줄 몰랐었어요. 어쨌든 이 악조건 중에서
어쨌든 끝냈으니까
이 이 악조건 중에서 속에서 너무 고생하셨고요. 존경스럽습니다, 지사님. 어떻게 막 여러 나라에서 영어가 다 발음도 다 다르고 다
휴대폰이 좋아서 다행이었습니다.
아니 처음부터 줬으면 됐을 텐데.
그러게요. 처음부터
미안해요.
주셨으면 제가
그걸 말을 딜레이 된다는 말을 이해를 못했어요.
이게 막 들리다 안 들리다 끊어지다 이러니까 저도 당황해가지고.
줌이 당연히 딜레이 되는데 뭐 많이 된다 하니까 이해가 안 됐거든요. 그래서 저도 이런 시스템은 오늘 거의 처음이거든요. 줌은 해봤지만 이렇게 서로 대화하고 이런 것들을 이렇게 보는 건 오늘 처음이기 때문에 몰랐었어요. 어쨌든 너무 악조건 속에서 고생하셨어요. 정말 너무 존경스럽습니다.
저는 어떻게 되는
깜짝
건가?
놀랐어요. 재산이 이렇게
가야 되는 건가? 있어야 되는 건가? 근데 저는 끝난 거예요?
그러신 것 같은데 수장한테 시간하고 못 받아서 연락 안내가 받았어요.
이 우리가 서는 건데 저는 가는 건지
서는 건지 가는 건지
그런데
실장님 저는 BMX 선언문 낭독이라고 선언문이라고 했는데 저는 어떻게 가는 거예요? 가는데
아까는 안 되고
근데 지금은 국제적으로 선언문하고 이런 거는
너무 뺀 거고. 네, 거 하나 뺐어요. 아까 주인이 다 여기 있는지 모르겠네. 그죠? 이제 겉대부터 빼라 하니까 겉대를 빼라 하니까 그리고 은근 안 되네.
우리 거 맞아요. 아까 쌤 하나 가져줬어. 쌤 거 하나 줬고 쌤 거 내가 뭔지 몰라 받았어요. 받았어. 나머지는 다 외국 거예요. 또 막아주고.
그건 올려가는 건 맞죠?
봤어.
그치 맞아. 배터리 몇 칸이?
야, 충분해요. 아직 3칸이 3칸.
3칸? 내 거는 2칸밖에 안 남았을 텐데. 요즘에 뜨는 동네.
요거는 그 저기 수신기 있잖아. 수신기만 확인해보면 될 것 같아요.
두 칸은 있네. 아니 근데 저 뭐야
이거는 메인이니까 여기 해주고요.
위에 거 하나도 없다. 옛날에 한번 그런 얘기하는 적이 있었던 것 같은데.
너무 높아요.
그럼 아버지는 어떻게 하겠다냐?
이분한테요. 일단 살짝
아니
내려달라고.
오전에 뭐 스피커 근처에다 놓으면 돼. 피아노 위에다 얹어 놓으면 되겠네.
너무 멀어 또 그것도.
그래도
그건 너무 멀어 또.
노이즈 많이 안 들을 거 아니야.
그렇죠. 그건 그렇지.
아니면 저 초 위에다 초 옆에 그쪽에 놔두면 되겠네. 잘안 나가나? 안 들려?
아니, 왔다 갔다 하는 분들 일단은 요분한테 얘기하면
지금 소리 들어온다.
그치 켜놨어요 지금.